All right. Now that we know how to do a bunch of statistics inside of a spreadsheet, now we're going to learn how to make graphs for us. Okay, these graphs will look incredibly professional and it will happen way faster than having to do it by hand. Okay, we're going to start with making a bar graph. Okay, there are two kinds of bar graphs you can make. One where it's just counting the different types of things that you highlight. Okay, and then the second one that makes a different length of bar for each different type of thing we have. So let's start with the first one. Okay, the way we make all of our graphs is we just highlight the column of data that we want to use first. So I'm going to start with type of element. Okay, I'm going to start with the title, and I'm going to highlight all of the elements all the way down to the bottom. Okay, now that I've highlighted all of them, I'm going to go ahead and click in this corner up here where it says Insert Chart. Okay. When I do that, it's going to give me some recommendations. Always skip this and just go to chart types instead. Okay, I want to go to a column chart. This is what we normally call a bar graph, but Google Sheets calls it a column chart. So I'll click on this. Okay, and I can see this already looks about right. Okay, it's what I wanted it to come up as. It's got the different types of elements, metal, semi-metal, and non-metal, and it's counting how many there are of each of them. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click Insert. And then I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and it always puts it in the middle on top of the data, but now it's covering all this stuff, and I don't like that. So I'm going to click on the graph, click on the little arrow in the top right corner, and I'm going to move it to its own sheet. Now that it's here, okay, I'm going to go ahead and click Advanced Edit and fix some of the details on this. So we're going to start at the Customization tab, and I don't like this title of Count of Type of Element. I'm just going to change it to Types of Elements. And I'm thinking, do I need this legend? Not really, so I'm going to change it to none. Get rid of that. It's just keep taking up space I don't need it to take up. Okay, the font is fine. You can mess around with the background, but white is more professional. Okay, the horizontal axis. That one's already good. Those are the types of elements. I'm going to keep that. But the left one, I'm going to change this to number of elements. Okay. Max and min is fine. Don't need to change that. I wish there were more lines though, so it'd be easier to tell how many there are of each of these. So instead of just having 10 grid lines, or 5 grid lines, I'm going to change it to 10 instead. And so now we see I've got way more grid lines over here, and it's much easier to tell that this is very close to 90, but a little bit under. I'm going to scroll down some more. I don't think there's much more I need to change. I could change the color of the bars if I wanted. Okay, but blue looks pretty professional, so I'm just going to keep it like that. And then I'm done. So I'm going to click Update. I'm going to do one last check. Okay, this seems about right. Okay, and then I just need to do one thing on the bottom. Okay, at the very bottom of the page, okay, there's the tab where it says Chart 6. I don't want it to say Chart 6. I want to give it a real title, so I'm going to double click on Chart 6, and then you can go ahead and just change it to what you want to say, which is Types of Elements. Okay, and we're done. Okay, let me show you how to do the other type of bar graph as well. So let's say instead of just having it count, I want to actually show how many, or the boiling point of all of the different elements. So the two sets of data I care about are the names of the elements and the boiling points of the elements. Okay, one thing that's kind of hard to do is to scroll and grab all of them at the same time. So here's a shortcut. Okay, click on the very first cell that says name and hold down the shift key and then click on the last one. Okay, and that will let Google know you want to highlight everything in between the first cell and the last cell that you picked. Then I want to also get this boiling point data. This is where it gets tricky. If you're going to highlight two sets of columns that are not next to each other, you're going to hold down the command key. Okay, click, this is going to let you know that it wants to grab another thing without letting go of what you already clicked. And then I'm going to press Shift again and click down to the bottom. And so now I'm highlighting all of the name data and all of the boiling point data. So you can see it's all highlighted. So now it knows that those are the two things that I want to graph. So I'll click Insert Chart. Okay. And I'm going to look for my column graph. Here we go. And yep, that looks about right. It's a bunch of lines because there are a ton of data points. Here we can see there are 113 elements, so there should be a bunch of lines. And all the boiling points look like they're on there, so this seems right. I'm going to go ahead and insert it. Okay, scroll back up and find it. Remember, we don't want it sitting on top of our data, so I click on it. Okay, go to move to its own sheet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll say boiling points by element. Okay, and now I'm going to do some advanced editing on this. Give it a better title, boiling point by element. And the legend, again, I don't think I really need this. It's already written in the title, so I'm going to delete it. Horizontal axis, well, this should say element. Okay, and the left vertical axis, those are the boiling points. Boiling point. And then degrees Celsius as my unit. Okay, again, I want some more grid lines. Okay, it's easier to read if there are more grid lines, so that's fixed. Okay, number format, scale, everything else looks pretty good. Okay, I could change the color again, but I think red, because we're talking about boiling points. Things are hot. So I'm going to click Update. Okay, and there's my graph. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and go back to your data now. Okay. And what I want you to do next is to make a bar graph, okay, of the elements. Okay, and I want you to compare that with all of the densities. So I want a bar graph of all the elements and all the densities. And once you finish that, you're going to make another bar graph of just the natural states of the elements. So you should have two different bar graphs. One that's just counting the natural states, and one that is showing the densities of the elements.